this event and meet all the players.
That's right. If anyone is going to be able to make it with these kind of decks, it's going to be Thijs. He knows all the weirdest decks you can possibly bring in the current metas. But here for Roger, it's looking to be a big priest to get things going up against what looks to be a big druid with ahqRoger in it for Thijs.
And I believe he's kept it. Well, that is a weird spectator bug, but I hope Thijs kept it because he knows that he wants some memes to happen here. So Roger actually bringing the only big priest of the tournament, if we can still call it a tournament, because we didn't actually get to see Colentos in action.
That's right. He was one of the only players to not bring Highlander whatsoever. But here for Thijs, actually not an awful start to get things going. If you pretend that Mayor Noggenfoggy is any respectable 9-drop whatsoever, he's actually in a pretty good spot.
We are gonna get there on what, turn 5, is it? Because we're gonna go 3, 5, and then coin Noggenfogger. So I am hoping that comes down over Ysera, even though Ysera just doesn't die to priest. It's not a Mayor Noggenfogger.
Oh,
that's what we're here to see, and it's just struck me now that Roger has consciously chosen to bring a priest that does not contain Raza the Chained.
He's making sure this time there's no possibility for him playing a Raza that is unactivated completely. But here for Roger, the options he has available, none of which are particularly good at all. He wanted, I suppose, Shadow Essence, the Eternal Servitude for after he gets a Barnes or a Shadow Essence, but the Shadow Horror is doing effectively nothing.
Yeah, he is not going to be able to hit any big drops anytime soon, whereas Thijs can, hopefully, I pray, play that Noggenfogger as soon as possible. Who needs Ysera, man?
He's got a very good chance of doing so. I mean, getting it down before the Obsidian statues and Ysera's come down, especially when you're in a show match, feels like a great way to get things going.
Okay, so here is the momentous turn. What's it gonna be, Thijs? One for the fans. Oh, wait, are we getting baited by Mr. Thijs here? The suspense is killing me, Derek. What's it gonna be?
He knows that he's killing us with this one. Oh, Ysera does come down in the end. Maybe we can see a Noggenfogger coming down when there's already millions of minions on board already to just start the true insanity.
Sure. It would be nice to see Noggenfogger come down and then play some nightmares on Roger's own minions, but the Barnes pulled by Shadow Essence. No better meme than that.
Oof, that is absolutely not what Roger wanted to see in this situation.
And we heard the crowd again all the way from over here just having a big guffaw at this very classic big priest play.
I've got to say, Thijs, though, considering he's playing a deck with Noggenfogger in his hand, doing a pretty good job of playing as best as he can, I would say, in this situation.
At heart, he is still Thijs, isn't he?
It's true. He peeves me greatly with his Thijs,
definitely somebody who always wants to be known as competitive and top level, so maybe we might never see the Noggenfogger played at all. This reminds me of one certain green sheep who promised to bring a Noggenfogger deck in Zoo, was it?
Yes, never actually came to fruition.
Didn't quite pan out, so maybe Thijs is here to deliver, and since he doesn't want to quite play Deathwing this turn, and Laughing Sisters, who wants to play those? Come on, Lich King sucks. It's gonna be Noggenfogger. What are you talking about?
No, this is what we're gonna do when we get. We're gonna go for the Lich King into Army of the Dead, summon like 20 dragons, and then you go Noggenfogger.
So that your dragons can all.
I see the meme lines.
Get blown up, or maybe you've generated some other Lich King spells like Death Coil, so you play those, and then they all kill your own dragons.
So now for Roger, the only 2 minions left in his deck, if this is a standard big priest, would be the Barnes and the second Obsidian statue, which is an awful spot to find yourself in going into turn 9.
Right, he's just going to be playing those naturally. And Death Coil, Hero Power, pretty straightforward for Mr. Thijs here. Going to be putting Roger down to a meager 13 health. Of course, Roger has the answers, but Thijs has the Noggenfogger. I don't see how we can lose with that.
Yeah, that's right. Very aggressive lines of play here. And a 9-drop with more attack than it has health. You know that has to be a very aggressive minion.
So it's got to be the death here. Dragonfire going to be able to clean up everything. And now Thijs finally has one turn where he could plausibly play the Noggenfogger just as the best play of the turn, because you're not going to want to discard your cat. I take it back. I'm so annoyed
Yeah.
Why did he have to draw a good play?
Even better here for Roger. Or even better here for Tyson. The Shadow Word Death for Roger probably just won't get the job done, because if there is a Shadow Word, if there is a Deathwing in his hand, or any other kind of dragon, maybe even just a Sleepy Dragon, something like that, Thijs is still in a fantastic spot.
Just waiting in the wings. I do think that maybe Noggenfogger occupied the spot of Sleepy Dragon.
Very possibly.
Or maybe it just occupied the spot of a more key card if Thijs wants to go super memey on this at all. But it seems like everything else in Thijs' deck has been quite standard. And is he playing it? He's playing it.
He could get lethal. It's a 50-50 for lethal right now. Hey! No! Oh!
And the Noggenfogger could die. No! It almost had its moment of glory. Unlucky.
Very unfortunate there for Thijs, but can get
so
a guaranteed Deathwing summon here, but at the same time, then he's leaving himself very vulnerable to Shadow Word Death from his opponent.
Yeah, I think he might just play that in tandem with the Dragon Hatcher.
You reckon?
Not too bad. I mean, what other threats does he have left to play?
I'm looking at maybe going for a wide board with Blossom and Plague and then trying to make the statue not kill off the Dragon Lord.
Sure.
Sure.
Bit fancy, but I can see it happening. Honestly, I'm still upset that Mayor Noggenfogger had less than 15 seconds of fame. It was more like 5 seconds. But it was a good 5 seconds.
He almost got the job done. True pandemonium did come down indeed.
So, cute play from Thijs here to try and prevent death on the Deathwing, but it's got it in the name. Of course it's going to be the one to die.
Naturally, Deathwing does come down, destroying nothing, discarding nothing, and instantly being hit with the Shadow Word Death.
And Roger can play the Shadow Essence, but it's only going to pull Barnes at this point, right? He's played double statue, was it?
I think it's one statue left in the deck, so there's a chance to get the second essence, or to get the second statue from this essence.
Well, seems like he's got nothing else to do aside from playing Shadow Word Death, so...
Yeah, he could go for Shadow Word Death into Spellstone to summon back a Barnes, a statue, and a Lich King.
Oh, actually just gonna go for Dragonfire here. I wonder what the reasoning behind that is. Well, it's true that the Spellstone wasn't fully upgraded yet, but Shadow Essence just seemed to make a bit more sense there.
Barnes is finally found, so at this point it's pretty pointless actually, because all the resurrections are already just good enough. Roger able to resurrect a whole bunch though with the Spellstone instead, if he wanted to go for that play. Is pretty defensive and not weak to all too much from the Ysera.
Yeah, completely fine. Thijs has kind of run out of stuff after this Dragon Hatcher dies. Ysera not being able to pick up Awakens quite yet means that it's just not doing too much to contest the board, and Roger is looking like a massive favorite here, but meme after meme seems to come from the very top of Thijs' deck.
Yeah, this is Thijs' win condition now, because he's looking to be in a pretty rough spot, actually. Now that the Dragon Hatcher has pulled out a dragon, Master Oakheart isn't even that good. So I like delaying it a little bit longer. He's got plenty of health to see him through. And he tries to pull a minion, and there's literally nothing left.
It's okay. The Death Grip has its more important role of feeding the Yogg.
Right.
And I haven't had to keep track of how many spells have been played in a game in a very, very long time. But
I know. It's been a while, hey?
I feel like it's been around 7, 8 for Thijs', because he played double Jade Blossom of Plague, the Death Coil Swipe. It's got to be some more stuff as well. Yeah, Nourish.
I would say it's nice to be back with Yogg, but that would be the biggest lie I've ever told.
Same. I've never liked the guy.
Yeah. Thijs might like him, though, in this instance.
Sure, and one instance where I might be able to respect Yogg is a show match when it actually fulfills its sole purpose when it was conceptualized, which is to be a fun card, a funny card, never see competitive play. So this is Yogg in its purest form. But will it be happening now when you can have a 15-second turn instead?
This is the biggest of big druids. Take down the Nozdormu right now. Imagine if that had come off the Dragon Hatcher. Roger probably wouldn't have had the time to make the turns he was going for, but Ysera Awakens looks like it's going to be the play, probably gearing up for a Yogg on the very next turn, just feeding it again, a little bit more soup for Yogg.
Sure, and just to make sure that the Nozdormu, if it did come down, didn't just die straight away to a trade from the statue. This is gonna be amazing, Derek! Deck of Wonders has nothing on the OG random spell generator himself.
Yeah, exactly.
The YOGG. Please play Yogg, Thijs.
It's time. Here we go.
Here we go. That's
fine.
Okay, Yogg is 2/5 of the way to dying.
Blizzard to get things going. Potion of Heroism, fine. Drawing a card. Who cares about the polymorph?
No!
Well, a 10-mana sheep that gives your opponent a divine shield.
You did draw a card, though.
You did draw a card. That's where the value comes into play. I totally agree.
Roger's been pretty deadpan about this, huh? Thijs has had every range of expressions you could imagine. And he almost found that lethal with the Mirror Noggin Fogger, but
Yeah, right.
it just didn't quite pan out. So now he can rely on maybe the 15-second completely catch Roger off guard and somehow distract him long enough to skip his turn game plan. Let's go, Naz Darmu right now.
Yeah, I think maybe a little optimistic, but I like the way you think about it at least.
What else is there?
There's not much. Dragon Hatcher, maybe you could go into some kind of a taunt with the Sleepy Dragon, but something's telling me that the memes are too full for room for Sleepy Dragon.
I think we managed to pull a smirk from Roger. Just the slightest hint of his corner of his mouth turning up a little bit, and I will take that.
A smork.
Did I say a smirk?
You did kind of say a smirk.
Smirk. Okay. Well, we're going to get both of those basically as he's going face for at least 7 this turn.
Yeah.
And ahqRoger joining
it's a 10-10.
the party.
Why not? And at this point, now that the Yogg has come down, there's not really anything I would imagine that Thijs can do with the Deathwing down as well. But to be honest, I've been surprised at pretty much every single card we've seen for the last few turns.
On the bright side, this means that we get to see this deck again.
That's true, and I am
Conquest
intrigued to
is
see
great.
this deck again. Yeah. Roger's Big Priest seems to be fairly standard. From Thijs, it does appear to be that Master Oakheart variant of Big Druid, but obviously with a few memes there. A good taste.
Definitely the best of taste, and Thijs, if he's coming back to a show, he's sure to do it with a bang, it seems.
Yeah, most certainly. And for Roger, with the rest of his classes left, with the Warlock banned away, I'm not really sure what else to expect. In terms of what fun decks you can bring as for secondaries in the classes, with things like Rogue, obviously looking at Miracle Rogue as the only other main variant, but we saw from Dog hitting rank 1 recently with his kind of Mill Rogue with the Kingsblade in there as well.
That's a good meme as well. Actually, not entirely memey. I've seen it work in some cases.
Yeah?
At the Sydney Invitational, Dione was able to take some wins with that deck, so there has to be some memeier variant of Rogue. Right, Derek?
There must be somewhere in there. A Jade Rogue, perhaps?
The Darkness Mill Rogue?
Oh, now you're talking. I think that's what we can expect, perhaps from Thijs going forward. Something of that caliber.
It's absolutely in theme with Christmas Eve, you know, the darkness and its candles, and at the very end, lighting up our Christmas Eve.
Oh, like the tale of the Christmas Carol all over again.
Just a bit more memey.
Yeah, and for the Paladin, though, from Roger, obviously, traditionally, the other variant of Paladin has just been that Control Paladin, despite the fact that it hasn't seen any competitive play for a very long time, apart from what Amix had done at some point along the way. It is looking to be, perhaps, that exact variant of Rogue from Roger.
So Doomerang and... so we're going to see some Mill Rogue mirrors. I hope one of them's running the Darkness.
I think you might be expecting a little much, but from Thijs, this definitely appears to be something pretty out there. Cheat Death is not a card I've seen all too much of at all.
Yeah, and even Doomsayer not an auto-include, so we are learning just as much as you guys as we see these cards one by one. But the Doomerang from Roger indicates it's not an auto-include in these Mill Rogue decks. Sometimes you just go for more damage with the Kingsbane and not necessarily use it for board clear.
Yeah.
But honestly, I haven't seen any of these decks in action in a while, so let's get it on.
That's right, and now with the Kingsbane already in hand, Thijs has a good chance of drawing into some more ways to activate it and make it a lot more powerful, given that he's got the Cold Light Oracle in there to start getting some really good draw and maybe getting the fatigue going. But the thing is, in this matchup, both players have infinite fatigue potential with the Kingsbane.
Right. Honestly, I'm really not sure how this is going to pan out, but I'm very happy to see that smiles were pulled from both players once they saw that they are playing the mirror. And so Thijs can pull ahead pretty neatly here just by being the one to stick his minion first. And equip the Kingsblade Bane, and then he's got South Sea Squid Face to help with that. And maybe that's what Cheap Death is for. You get another Squid Face, you buff it again.
Something like that.
Pretty big.
Yeah, there's a bunch of strong battle cries and death rattles you'd like to have returned to your hand, like the Oracle, the Squid Face, all those kind of things. But here for Roger, he's starting things off with a bang, most certainly making a massive Edwin right at the start of the game.
Yep, Edwin has been a good card since time immemorial, and one of those cards that people argue about why is it not yet in the Hall of Fame, and did Thijs maybe bring a 4-Yogg lineup?
I mean, it's Thijs. I mean, you say he wants to be competitive, and obviously he does want to when he's going seriously, but nobody knows better than him how to play these ridiculous kind of decks, fulls of Yoggoth and things like that.
Yoggoth.
Yeah.
One does not simply Yoggoth. Alright, so I guess it's just going to be, Roger's own Squid Face. No reason to trade that one off with the Edwin. I don't know if this deck has room for Vile Spines. Probably Saps and Vanishes are more likely, but neither of those are in hand for Thijs, so looks like this could be ending a lot sooner than either of us would have liked.
Most certainly looks that way. Doomsayer just isn't going to get the job done against such a great big minion as Edwin. Sap is a nice pickup for Roger, but just still unavailable for Thijs, so maybe he just keeps on digging with the Cold Light. If he does find that Sap, he can prep it out. Yeah,
he can go for the Shadow Step and prep, and I don't think he can afford to be taking another 8 to face, so Thijs is going to go for that right now. I hope we see some more interesting things in here. What could top a Yogg in Mill Rogue? The Darkness.
There's the Sap.
Okay.
We do now finally have it, but he doesn't even necessarily have to go for it, because with the buff from the Squid, he can just Sap
Blade
the Squid
Flurry
Face
too.
as well. Oh, right, okay.
Very nice play from Thijs there, recognizing that the Sap will find better targets, whereas the Blade Flurry probably won't.
And shuffling the weapon back in isn't even that bad at this point, as the weapon is not the worst draw in his deck at this point by a long way. And with Yogg Saron in hand, maybe he can find himself drawing a whole bunch of cards along the way as well.
The good old days when Yogg would go shield block and sprint and then mill your whole deck.
Yeah, those were the good old days that I hated, basically.
Same. Well, Roger now deciding that the minions on board don't get that much done, so he's going to start buffing up that weapon for the Endless Train, and of course Thijs is only at 10, so he's essentially put Thijs at a 2-turn clock.
So now for Thijs, there really is just nothing to be done at the moment. Now the Edwin has been killed, other than sapped. He does have a fair bit of time, I suppose, but for Roger, he can just draw so much of his deck with the Minstrel and the Cold Light Oracle.
Right, I think Thijs is trying really hard to find evasion, if it's in the deck, just to be able to survive over 2 more turns, or something like the Kingsbane plus the Leeching Poison, but it's very, very niche, and looking like Roger with his more serious, no fun deck. No, I'm kidding. It's still Mill Rogue. It's still pretty fun. It's going to take the win. Why am I not surprised?
You reckon this is pretty much just it?
It's going to be... evasion doesn't cut it, right? Here,
yeah.
Is there weapon removal? Is there...
I'm wondering if there's Taunt. Valera can't come down quite yet. Could get the Leeching Poison.
Yeah, it has to be the weapon, like the Kingsbane plus Leeching Poison, to be even significant enough, but Thijs doesn't quite hit it.
Yep, evasion not quite going to get the job done, because it doesn't function quite like an ice block. Although similar, when you are down to the lethal range, it just doesn't get the job quite done.
Yeah, unfortunate. It is a very cool design of a card, I will say, and it... definitely warrants some critical play. People should know that rogue secrets exist by now, and Thijs surely does, so he's just gonna give it up there, and that means Roger makes it through yet another Yogg deck, although we didn't quite see the Yogg in action this time.
It's true. In a way, it's kind of disappointing to see a Mill Rogue mirror, coming down to the fact that Edwin on turn 3 as an 8/8 probably does just win you the game at that point.
Just like many other rogue mirrors from time immemorial. So I'm thinking that Thijs, since he's shown us 2 different decks so far, would be queuing up his last deck. Can't quite remember the class, but it's bound to have a Yogg as well, right?
Oh, it's a Silence Priest. This is what... There's
so
much wrong with what I'm seeing now. I'm not even going to go into it. Is this a Hemet deck?
I think this is a meme at Roger specifically deck, because this deck can play Raza, as we know, and have it not activate.
It just can't be. The full loads of doubles in the deck just to meme on Roger.
I mean, I can't possibly think that Thijs has this in him. He seems like such a nice guy on stream, but if that actually happens, he did mulligan the Raza away, but if it does, I really can't even imagine Roger's reaction. So for now, he's just going to cosplay as your ordinary Silence Priest, probably playing on curve and maybe trying to make Roger think that nothing fishy is going on here at all.
That's right. Little does Roger know, though, that there is a Raza floating around in this deck for Thijs. Maybe just as a 5/5, maybe to be activated once Hemet comes into play. There have been a few of those decks floating about as Raza variants in the past, but they have most certainly fallen by the wayside in competitive play. But I think now we see the Archbishop Benedictus.
Okay.
This is the priest deck that was played for about a day, I think a little while ago, in the Knights of the Frozen Throne era, when you completely decimate your whole deck with Hemet, leave yourself with about 3 cards left in your deck, and then Archbishop Benedictus your way back to a full deck.
Okay, so that does sound a bit more reasonable than playing one card, which is pretty
Just
much
BM.
useless in your deck just to BM. Although we have seen that historically in Hearthstone. What was it? Some EU players in EU versus CN playing some 07?
Right, yeah.
Just to get on Lovely Chook's nerves.
That was great, to be fair.
You guys have a sick sense of humor, and it is actually a triple Yogg lineup, most likely quadruple, but we will never see the banned deck, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, and could potentially get the job done here, because against decks where you can kind of survive until turn 10 against the aggressive decks and then go for one more board clear, Yogg was traditionally pretty good. That was obviously in the pre-nerfed forms, however.
Right, so Thijs has a very effective silence here. Potion of Madness doesn't quite clear everything. Oh wait, he can go for a potion on the wolf. It will still leave a 1/1, but it's all fine. And he has the option to go for the extreme BM next turn.
The super BM, that could be cool to see, but at the same time, I think he will probably be saving it, trying to get that full Raza combo with Anduin, because he just needs to find Hemet now as aggressively as he possibly can, if I have correctly realized what deck this is.
Yeah, doesn't look to be anything else. Just seems to be a meme deck with the extra meme of Yogg added in. So Thijs truly going all out there. So I'm sure he's thinking about it. You can see Thijs just chuckling to himself, looking at the camera. I'm sure the audience is just cheering him on right now.
Play it.
Oh no. Is this... Oh my god. Oh, Roger. With barely a chuckle from him there, and if I were Roger, I'd be the first thing on my mind right now would be to kill this Raza and completely erase it from existence.
So once again, just for those people who may have missed it, Thijs has delivered probably some of the best BM I've ever seen in Hearthstone. As yesterday, Roger played a Raza after he had had 2 copies of Loot Hoarder shuffled into his deck, and it did not activate. It was truly glorious to watch. Go on Reddit if you haven't seen it so far. And Thijs, delivering beautiful BM.
Did you think Thijs had it in him, Mr. Nice Guy on stream?
It's all nonsense.
It's all an act, guys. The true Thijs is savage.
And he does probably still just end up losing this game.
Yeah, he does.
You know, there's the Psychic Scream on the next turn, actually, which is pretty good. But Balinar on its own here is probably just going to put in enough work to take the game for Roger.
Sure, even just a minion plus Blessing of Kings. It is kind of weak to silence, but without any consistent healing for Thijs here beyond his hero power, seems like the sole purpose of this deck was just to tilt Roger.
That is indeed.
I have never ever seen that kind of play.
Thijs is a sadistic genius, I'm sure of it now. But for Roger, any card draw that his opponent manages to accrue is not even that bad for him anymore, because Divine Favor is the way he will get himself closer to things like Deckhand Leroy, just to burst his opponent out of the game as quickly as he can.
So Thijs is going to get a casual another 14 cards.
Yeah.
Not that it's going to matter.
I'm not really
very
sure
much.
what that helps in any way. It's probably just for the minion body of a 7-mana 4/6.
Just for the meme, I'd rather say.
Right, just for the meme value. As Roger is going to close this out, smacking his opponent in the face, taking no time to deliver some reverse BM just by winning the game.
although he did win, it seems like Thijs is very, very satisfied with himself. Who is the true winner here, Dara?
I don't know. I mean, it's a show match, so at the end of the day, you're just trying to make the fans